Hey, what's up everyone? So look, today we have a cool new phone today that I'm showing you here, hot off the press. This is the brand new OPPO Find X5 Pro. So I'm going to be doing a quick unboxing for you, talking about some of the general specs and features. And then also I'm going to be taking a look at the cameras and see what type of photos and videos that you can get out of this bad boy. So first, let's get this thing out of the box. Now, shout out to OPPO for sponsoring this video for me to be able to show you everything going on with this phone today. Okay, so what do you get inside of the box? So you do get this nice included case, which is always good to have a case so you don't have to spend any extra money. And I'll show you how this case looks on the phone here in a second. And then of course you get the phone, but before we get to that, let's take a look at what else you get. So you do get a USB-C cable along with an 80-watt wall charger. Yes, 80 freaking watts. So that means you can charge the 5,000 milliamp hour battery inside of this phone pretty quickly. And this phone also does support 50-watt wireless charging as well, which is also insane. And as we get this thing fully unwrapped, I have my first look and feel of the ceramic back on this phone. One, I like it because you don't typically get ceramic backs on smartphones. Most phones go with glass, but two, it just looks and feels very premium. And you can choose between either white or black for the finish of your phone, but I really like the way this phone looks. And also the camera hump has a very sleek design to it. It's a very smooth transition to the full back of the phone here. But yeah, just off of looks, and you want something that kind of like is stylish and doesn't look like everything else on the market here. I think they did a pretty good job with this phone. Oh, and this is how that included case looks on this phone. So I like that it is see-through, so you can still see the color and the finish of the phone, but if you are a little clumsy like I am, it's good to have a case on this thing to keep it looking pristine. Now the screen on this bad boy is a 6.7-inch Quad HD Plus display that has great colors, great brightness, really excellent quality, and it does also have an in-display fingerprint scanner so you can easily and quickly get inside of your phone if you need to, and it's very responsive. I have very little accidentally like misfires. Pretty much every time I place my thumb on this thing, it does recognize it and it allows me to get inside of this phone. Now for the refresh rate, the screen does run up to 120 Hertz. So when you are navigating the OS, this thing is going to be silky smooth. And I like the fact that this does drop all the way down to 10 Hertz when you don't need that higher refresh rate. And this is going to help preserve battery life. Oh, and as far as the software or the operating system that this phone is running, it is running ColorOS 12 on top of Android 12. And I did a deep dive video on ColorOS 12 already. So I'll leave that link down below in the description of this video, so you can watch that after you get done here. But it's a really nice take on Android, actually one of my favorite takes on it. A lot of nice enhancements and UI tweaks and things that really help amplify this phone. And as far as how it runs on this phone so far, for me using it, it runs pretty smoothly, no issues at all with ColorOS 12 on this thing. And a big reason why this phone runs so smoothly is the fact that it does have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset inside of it, so it's going to be very fast performance along with that 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage that you do have. And so those specs are solid, but what about the cameras? So let's talk about the cameras, and I'm gonna show you how they perform here in a second. So on the front, you do have a 32 megapixel front facing camera, and then on the back, you do have a triple camera setup. So you do have a 50 megapixel main camera, and then also you do have a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera and a 13 megapixel telephoto camera. All right, so take a look at this front facing portrait mode selfie that I took with this phone, and I really did walk away impressed with this, and I really love the edge detection around my big head and also my shoulders. It did a great job at cutting me out from the background, but also my skin tones look very natural, but they still kind of pop on the screen, but not too much. And the big reason for this is their partnership with Hasselblad to be able to really work on that color science to make something that really stands out. And I'm telling you right now, just from this photo, I was really impressed with it. And here we have another portrait mode picture, but this is using the rear facing camera, and you can see that the same things I like with the front facing camera as far as the edge detection and the colors are definitely represented here too. And I really like the way this portrait mode picture turned out using the rear facing camera, which I was a little far away from this sign, and you might not normally want to do that, but you can see that it definitely made this really cool creative look to it where that background is blurry and then you have that kind of the bottom of the sign in focus there. I really like the way this shot turned out. So you can kind of get creative with the portrait mode because it's very excellent on this phone to really make some interesting shots. Now here's a picture with the ultra wide camera, and the first thing I want to point out is that when you look on the edges of the photo, you don't see a lot of warping or blurriness. It's a really good photo from the middle to the outside, and that especially is important with ultra wide photos where sometimes you can get some distortion. But also in this shot, I had a lot of different lighting conditions coming on, from the light coming in from the roof, and then also on the right and the left hand side, you had a lot of different shadows and stuff. Now without getting super technical here, this thing is basically here to try to make this camera perform the best in different lighting conditions and to allow the phone to really kind of do all of the hard work to kind of make sure you can get the best photo in bright environments and in low light environments and any other environment that you may find yourself in. Like here, when I did move outside and we had this overcast day and a lot of fog and stuff, but this first photo is with the main wide angle camera, and then now I'm switching over to the 2x telephoto camera, and you can see that that quality maintains and is really consistent between the two cameras, and I really love how this photo turned out. You have a nice amount of sharpness, all of the highlights and exposure is really done well. So that Mari Silicon X is doing a great job going from zooming or indoors and outdoors in all different type of situations. Now here's another test. One of these is going to be from the iPhone 13 Pro, and one of these is going to be from the OPPO Find X5 Pro, and this is using portrait mode with the rear facing camera. So which one do you think is which? And I'm about to tell you right now. So again, on the left-hand side, we have the OPPO Find X5 Pro, and on the right-hand side, we have the iPhone 13 Pro. And then here we have some night mode photos from all three rear facing cameras. So the first one is the ultra wide, and the second one is going to be the wide angle camera, and then also the third one is going to be the telephoto camera. And really all three of these look really nice, and OPPO has done a great job with their night modes on these phones to give you something that doesn't have a lot of noise, but also brightens up your image and gives you some really good quality in these low light situations. Now, when it comes to video, this phone can take 4K video up to 60 frames per second. And just looking at all of these video shots, you can see that I am using this handheld, but everything looks pretty smooth and steady, and that's because this phone does have a 5-axis OIS stabilization system inside of this. So this means that the stabilization is going to be great for photos and also videos, and it kind of looks like I do have the phone on a tripod here, but I am just holding the phone in my hands and doing some nice cool panning shots here. And then powered by the Mari Silicon X that I talked about before, this phone has this new thing called 4K Ultra Night Video that you can take. So this is going to allow you to take better video in low light situations like at night. And I'm comparing it right now to the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, another big dog phone that just came out. And I'm gonna pause the video right here to take a look at some of the differences here. Now, both phones do have some noise in the image, and that's something that is going to be very common with smartphones. But one thing you can see is that that night sky is a little bit deeper black on the OPPO Find X5 Pro, which is more realistic, where on the S22 Ultra, it did try to brighten up the image a little bit more to try to compensate for this low light situation that we're in. And sometimes that does work and sometimes it doesn't. But one thing I do want to point out is that when you do zoom in here and look at the individual rooms here in the building, you can see more detail with the OPPO Find X5 Pro because it did kind of keep things a little bit dimmer, so I can see details that I can't see in the S22 Ultra. And now here's a comparison with the iPhone 13 Pro on the right here and the Find X5 Pro. Now definitely a difference in the color of this red structure here. On the X5 Pro, it definitely is a more accurate color. On the iPhone, I really do love how it is able to brighten up those shadowy areas and make it really look nice. But one thing I did notice here is when you look at those lights, you have that glowing effect that you get with the iPhone. And also that can cause some of those little green globs to kind of show up on your video where you don't have that issue with the Find X5 Pro. And what I was trying to achieve with those comparisons is not to say which one is just better than the other, but just show you the differences in what these phones can do, and that this OPPO Find X5 Pro might not have as big of a name here in the States, but it can definitely stand up really well against a lot of the other smartphone competition. And because of the differences in the Mari Silicon X and also their combination with Hasselblad, you do see some differences in skin tone representation and also just different things with the photos and videos that kind of help it stand out against some of the other phones out there. All right, so here I'm just switching between the ultra wide, the main wide angle camera, and also the telephoto camera. Now again, the telephoto camera is just 2x optical zoom, but you can pinch and zoom and get up to 20x digital zoom. Now when you are using digital zoom like this with every single phone out there, you're gonna see a loss in quality with your photos. But one thing you want is to have really good stabilization, and the 5-axis optical image stabilization on this phone allows me to move the phone while being zoomed in this much and still have a steady image, and this is gonna help the picture quality be the best that it can be. And as I mentioned before, the wide angle camera and the ultra wide camera do have 50 megapixel sensors inside of them. So when you do take photos of them in post, if you like to crop in or zoom in, you're gonna still have some great quality to work with there. And so you can see that this looks like I actually walked up close to the wall, but I was still a little bit of ways away from it. But because you have that 50 megapixels to play around with, I can really get creative in how I use this photo. And so look, this OPPO Find X5 Pro is a flagship phone that I think a lot of people should take a look at. You have the latest generation specs with that Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, but you have that great display with that in-display fingerprint scanner that is super fast. And also you have that super fast 80-watt wired charging, which is ridiculous. So you can get this thing from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. And I think all around, from the design, from the display to the camera performance, as I showed you in this video, that this is a really solid flagship phone that has some things that help it stand out away from the rest of the pack. But also when you look at everything combined, you have something that's gonna be solid performing. And with the multi-year software updates that they have promised for this thing, you're gonna have something that's gonna be able to last you for a while. But right now, I want you to look down in the description of this video so you can check out some links that will take you to more information about this phone, and also where you can go ahead and pick up one for yourself. And also, again, I will have my deep dive of ColorOS 12 linked down below as well. But right now, I do want to see what you think about this phone. Leave your comment down below and make sure you do hit that subscribe and notification bell if you haven't already. But like always, I do want to thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you later. Peace.